he was doing this this thing where he had two pens on his desk. He had a red pen and a green pen. He starts the interview by saying, I have a red pen and a green pen. Red you don't want, green is the one you want. As I was answering questions, he would kind of hover his hand over one pen and the other. So it was throwing me a little bit because he kept going back to the red pen.
We're all about turning a crappy situation into something positive.
$250,000 of credit card debt.
I still remember the day when no one turned up.
Throw it in the garbage and start from scratch.
I could give myself a chance, so I started something.
I mean, I think that counts as from poop to gold.
Our sponsor for this episode is our 14-day video script challenge.
Yes, we are sponsoring our own show.
Yes, we are.
Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. This is Benton Crane, your co-host. I'm here today with a special guest. We've got Nate Sandell here with us. He is the Senior Manager of Social Media at the Mall of America.
Yeah.
So Nate, welcome. Paint a picture for us. I have been to the Mall of America in Minnesota. I spent a summer there.
Okay, I'm a little scared now.
So I've seen it, I've experienced it.
Okay.
But I need you to paint a picture for our listeners. Tell us about Mall of America and what makes it special.
That's a big question, right? The Mall of America is a very interesting place because it's huge. It is a very large property, 5.6 million square feet, one of the largest entertainment shopping destinations in the country. So many different facets to it, whether that is shopping is your game, 520 plus stores and attractions and dining options. But then we also have our indoor theme park in Nickelodeon Universe, Sea Life Aquarium. You could go, and if shopping is not your thing, you could spend the whole day going from attraction to attraction. If you love escape games, we have our own escape room at MOA. You can play mini golf. I'm no one's definition of a shopaholic, right? I work at Mall of America, and I can tell you that I don't shop very often, but I can still enjoy all the experiences there. But we have millions of guests and tourists that come through our gates, our doors every day and all year long, and it can be there's always something going on at MOA.
So it's called Mall of America, right? But
yeah.
Let's be honest, it's not like running down to your local mall and going, through a couple department stores and a bunch of smaller stores. It's a totally different experience than that. How would you say it? How would you compare it to that local mall experience?
Yeah, I think that's one of those areas where we, even with talking about Mall of America across our social channels, we go back and forth with, because you have your local audience. To them, they've grown up with it. It's just part of their everyday life. And to them, it's nothing, entirely special. It's their local mall. But for tourists and guests that are from out of town and coming through, they come into the doors and they see that, they get that wow factor that of really understanding the scope. And that's what we want to feed into when it comes to anything that we're doing, is providing a level of service, a level of attraction and shopping experience that you are going to really have that wow factor in everything you do. And I think that just translates, you can get that from not just the scope of the property, but then also just from a service point of view too.
Gotcha. Talk to us about the special history of the location.
Yeah, way back in the 1950s, 1960s, it was where the home of Metropolitan Stadium was.
So this is just outside of Minneapolis,
outside
Minnesota,
of Minneapolis,
right?
about 15, 20 minutes outside of downtown Minneapolis. From where our offices are, our management offices are at Mall of America, we can see both Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities. So about 15, 20 minutes south of the city is Bloomington, Minnesota, is where we're located. And if you've flown into Minneapolis, St. Paul International Airport, we're right there, right next to the airport. You can see the planes coming and going all day long. But in the 1950s and 60s, that's where Metropolitan Stadium was. Was there for many years. That's where greats like Harmon Killebrew used to play. Home plate of where Metropolitan Stadium is.
So this is where the Twins played, right?
This is where the Twins and the Minnesota Vikings, the football team, played as well. If you go into Mall of America, you can, if you're in Nickelodeon Universe, you can see home plate is located right by SpongeBob's Rock Bottom Plunge, just outside of it.
So Nickelodeon Universe is essentially a theme park in the center of the mall, right?
Yep, it's one of the largest indoor theme parks in the country, and you can actually see there was a seat that was left out in what was left center field of Metropolitan Stadium, and it is where Harmon Killebrew who is a Hall of Famer, launched his 500 plus foot home run, and there's a seat that's right by our log chute that you can still see today. So a lot of history from that point of view, but it's just outside of our doors where IKEA is today, is where Metropolitan or the Met Center was, and that's where the North Stars used to play, the hockey team, who then moved to Dallas, and now we moved on, and now we have a new hockey team with Minnesota Wild. And I mean, I say new, relatively new.
Sure.
But a lot of history there, especially from the sports side of things. But Mall of America broke ground in 1989, and then opened its doors up in 1992 on August 11th.
Got it. Okay, let's shift gears.
Sure.
Now let's talk about you. Let's talk about Nate. I understand you have a sports broadcasting background. How did you make the transition from sports broadcasting to social media at Mall of America? Yeah,
definitely. It's more on the sports journalism, sports media side. Kind of came up through, had graduated with a degree in journalism and mass communications, and was really following more of the journalism route, the news media side of things. And for a long time, I thought that was really where my passion lied. And there's a lot of factors into facets of sports journalism that I think have carried over to where I'm now. But at the time, loved the time that I put into it. I spent about 5-6 years professionally outside of college, covering a variety of different sports, and especially in the Twin Cities market, working for the local ESPN radio station there, and doing a lot of online writing as well. Covered the Minnesota Gophers, and college football was really my main beat, but touched on a lot of different sports. But was an AP top 25 poll voter for a couple of years too. So certainly got a lot of that sports background. But about 4 years ago, just felt that I just needed to change. It just was not connecting. I didn't have the same passion that I had once had for the field, and it kind of stumbled into the position I am now as senior manager of social media at Mall of America, and have really learned to embrace what the similarities between that and what we were doing from a journalism side, and kind of seeing the flip side of it from more of a brand management standpoint.
Got it. Now, many brands have kind of a singular story to tell. And so as they're on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the other platforms, they're able to kind of tell this same story over and over and over again. Now, I imagine at Mall of America, with so many things going on between the amusement park and the dining and the shops and the experiences and everything that goes along with it, have you guys been able to hone in on a singular story, or do you find yourselves telling lots of small stories?
Yeah, it's a good question, because that's one of the hardest pieces of telling Mall of America's story as a whole, because you have so many facets to it, and you have all these brands and other tenants that are telling their own story. But what our goal is, and what we need to accomplish, is how do you take that and hone it into your own brand in our own story. And I think that we have found ways to do that across our channels, and do it very in different ways across, whether that's Facebook, that's Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. But how you talk about one attraction may not relate to another channel. So one brand may work on Facebook, but they may not have a presence on Twitter or Instagram. So we have to figure out is how do we do that, and identify those brands, and what are they trying to accomplish? What are we trying to accomplish? And how do we best do that? And we do that through creating a lot of organic content that feels it has a human element to it. So instead of just using something that maybe your marketing team just created, that says buy one get one free with some stock image behind it, we want to take a photo that we actually went up, took ourselves, has a high quality to it, but still fits that quality you see on our other channels like Instagram. And just by doing that, you're able to tell the brand story, you're able to tell the tenant story while also telling our own story within our own voice.
Very cool. Talk to us about Twizzard.
Yeah. The Twizzard is one of the one of the coolest events that we've done. It was done a couple of years ago at this point, but I think it highlights where we say we want to stay ahead of trends and find ways to interact with our guests. That this Twizzard really touches on that. And you ask yourself, what is a Twizzard? And well, a Twizzard is a interactive Twitter-powered blizzard. So by using hashtag Twizzard, we help make it snow. Guests help make it snow within our rotunda on Black Friday, during Black Friday weekend. So it
literally snowed inside of Mall America.
It literally
Mall of
snowed.
America.
There was probably plenty of snow outside as well, but we helped add a little bit of snow to the inside as well. So guests would be empowered to use the hashtag, and the more it was used, it would set these digital thermometers within the rotunda, and they would slowly go from 99 degrees down to below freezing. And once they hit below freezing, then it would trigger a blizzard. It was actually soap. It was a special substance that we could make that we had to do a lot of talking with our maintenance team to get have a substance that will look like snow, but then also wouldn't leave a residue on the floor that didn't become a safety hazard as well. But it was a very cool experience to just see people walking through the rotunda and just have that little bit of magic when they looked up and they saw the snow coming down.
So just to be clear, the temperature didn't actually drop to below freezing.
Right. No, the temperature stayed at a easy 72 degrees like it always does.
Got it.
MOA.
So everyone's comfortable, but there's these digital thermometers up that visually are representing, hey, you need to tweet hashtag Twizzard.
Exactly.
And the more people who tweet that hashtag, then the thermometer comes down and down and down and down until it hits below freezing. I use air quotes for below freezing, right? And then the soap's snowflakes start to follow. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, and the best part about Twizzard was that guests would use, whether you were on property or you saw it when it was trending on social, guests would use the hashtag, and they may not even know, they may not be following Mall of America, they may not have any idea what a Twizzard is, but they went ahead and they clicked on it and they got into the action when they realized what was happening, and we ended up picking up a lot of followers and get eyeballs on the content they may have otherwise not interacted with it, just because it was a unique experience. And I think it really touches on what we're trying to do overall with our social channels, is find ways that we can engage with the guests and give them an opportunity to really tell the story. Because when it came to Twizzard and other things that we have done, it's letting guests tell the story and having us we're just there as the facilitators and listening to them. And certainly we're there to engage back and forth, but really your guests are your brand, and we want to make sure that comes across in the experiences that we're delivering.
Super cool, super innovative, original idea. Tell us about the origin of that idea. How did it come together? How do you and your team come up with not only Twizzard, but what's next?
For sure. And I think with the Twizzard, as it is with a lot of our different experiences and that we have at Mall of America, it's a very much a group mentality, and it comes from a lot of different departments, whether that is our social team, public relations. We also have an experiential marketing team as well, and just with our communications team as a whole. And it's all these teams trying to come together to find how can we best articulate our brand, and really understanding, okay, this is who we are, and how do we really translate this into something that we haven't done before. And that was what we were trying to accomplish, not only with Twizzard, but what we try to accomplish anytime you have the holiday season. And I think you see that if you ever get to experience Mall of America during the holidays, we're trying to make it a unique, special experience. Lately we've had our Discover Your Traditions experience and our campaign, and trying to make it so that you have times where you can come in and do things that you do the same thing every year, but it's a comfortable spot to celebrate the holidays.
I want to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Great ideas in big organizations usually happen in spite of the organization, not because of the organization. Who's really pushing these good ideas to the finish line? Because committees are usually where good ideas go to die.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think it's good to keep in mind at Mall of America, it's a relatively small team for the size of the brand. There's a lot of different facets to it, but when it comes to some of these ideas, especially on the social side, if you're talking just from a social care side and just general social content, it's coming from both my team and then from our public relations team. But then as a whole, our senior vice president of marketing, Jill Renslow, really pushes us to try to think outside the box. So I think that vision, especially from a staying above the trends from a digital side, from a social side, and that empowerment has really come from her. But then I think we are able to take that and be able to bring that to life and feel like we are empowered as a team, as a smaller team, to be able to create those ideas and have that trust that it's going to have that unique experience.
Awesome. So that way, when you want to dump soap suds on the floor,
exactly,
you've got some backing from up above so that the legal department can't just shut you down.
Right. And I think we always run into that at MOA, is that there's so many facets to it that you have to think about when we might sit in a room and say, okay, that's a really great event, social event that we want to do. But okay, does it make sense? Is the fire marshal going to be coming? Or who do we need to talk to? What's our maintenance team going to think? What's our security team going to think? There's a lot of facets to it that you have to think about. And that's where our team has a lot of connection with those different departments. But when you get everybody working on the same page, you can create some awesome stuff. Twizzard was a good example of that. We do a lot of interactive experiences just during the holiday season, where if you walk around the property, we have these giant toys that you run into. There's a giant Barbie car. There's a giant Jack in the Box, and it's supposed to look as if Santa's his sack just fell out, and all the stuff from his sleigh is scattered out throughout the mall, and kind of leads you back to the Santa set where you can meet Santa. And we try to do that each year, and a lot of the social digital support we provide that is to try to feed into that story of the magic of the holidays.
I love it. If you don't have to talk to the fire marshal and the police, then you're just not, pushing the boundaries enough.
Yeah, and that's part of it for us socially, is that certainly security plays a big role in it. Yep. That's where our social command center is located, is right next to our security team and our security dispatch team. So we work hand in hand with them to provide an experience for guests that is not only quality and fun, but also safe and something that the whole family can enjoy.
Got it. So as you're experiencing these user-generated stories, what kind of impact has that had on Mall of America as an organization?
Yeah, I think that's always kind of the $1 million question. How do you quantify that social impact? And there are ways to do that, certainly, but there are sometimes within social care, the social care side of things, that it's not always easy to give an exact value to how your response landed with a person. But I think that we have seen obvious examples of a guest saying things to us like, if it wasn't for this post, I wouldn't have checked this experience out. Thank you for letting us know. We've done a lot of guest recovery through social, and you can see the value there in the number of, some guest recovery examples where we're able to give.
So guest recovery, I imagine, is helping out a grumpy customer.
Grumpy customer, and I think anyone that engages with a disgruntled guest or disgruntled customer, I think would tell you that a lot of times, if you just take the time to listen to them, most of the time that guest backs down and listens to what you have to say, and will and be able to find some type of middle ground that you can resolve the situation and make their experience better. But certainly we are trying to do that through social, and find more and more ways that we can quantify it. But also, we would not have gotten to where we are with our social channels if it didn't take an ownership and leadership within our company and our brand that believed in what we were doing and gave us kind of the leeway to really put ourselves out there. And that's a lot of what goes into really every day for MOA Social.
So Twizzard was a success.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one flop?
Yeah, we've had our fair share of different campaigns in not working, or tweets not working, a post not working. A lot of I'm trying to just rack my brain trying to think of the one specific example, but when it comes to our social channels and the amount of people that we have coming through the property, there's always something that's going to happen, and you have to be prepared for those situations to come up, whether it's a disgruntled guest or if it's a security situation that's a little elevated, escalated a little bit more, that we have to deal with. And that's where we have to make sure that we have our crisis communication plan. We've had our fair share here in the last several years that we've had to deal with. And I think because we know who we are as a brand socially, we're able to respond to those very quickly. For the most part, when it comes to crisis communication, I would say about 90% of the time we don't respond to direct inquiries. If there's an issue, that say there is I think I used the example recently of one time when we had a car fire on one of our parking lot ramps, and we just saw a tweet that came through that was, "Hey, looks like there's a car on fire at Mall of America." We ran back to our the team that was moderating the feed, ran back to security dispatch, said, "Hey, looks like it's P4 West. There's a fire." That was the first time dispatch was hearing of it. They immediately called the fire department. Fire department comes out. They put out the fire, and then within 30 minutes,
somebody tweeted it before they called 911.
Before they called 911, there's no one to say that they didn't call them after that. But as far as we know,
awesome.
they just tweeted. But we were able to get back to dispatch. They were able to get fire department out there. 30 minutes go by. Fire's put out. Well, then we get a call from a local TV station that reached out and said, "Hey, we saw on Twitter that there was a fire out at MOA. We're on our way to take care of it." By this point, there was no story because the fire was out. There was nothing that they could really cover. And so what's great from our end is that we can tell the story of how quickly we responded to it, but B, it really takes it out of the media and it becomes a non-story. So just by setting up that moderation ahead of time helps us deal with some situations before they may escalate into those situations where you hear that the keyword of viral, where they become a little unruly. And that's certainly our goal of trying to prevent that.
Is your team always that on top of it and always that responsive, or was that an anomaly?
I don't think that was certainly not an anomaly, but we've had things do slip through the cracks here and there. For our team, I have a team of 7 in total, 5 community managers that their main role is just moderation. So yes, things will come and get through the cracks, but when it comes to I think those high level security situations, those are ones they're going to be caught because we have enough filters in place, keyword alerts that are in place that they're going to be caught ahead of time.
That's awesome. All right, Nate, the podcast is called Poop to Gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about a situation where you took a really crappy situation and turned it into something great.
Oof. That is a really good question because I think that I can come up with examples from a Mall of America related point of view, but if you're talking about me personally, I think what I would go back to would be about 4 or 5 years ago. So this was just before my time at Mall of America. I was at a crossroads in my career where still obviously a young professional, but had been in the sports journalism news media side of things for about 5-6 years at that point, and just I wasn't happy with it anymore, and I realized that I didn't feel like I was matching up to the level that I felt for me to continue to be successful, that I was at that level. Or
what was missing?
I don't know. I think that looking back on it now, I think it came down to the passion of the desire to really feed into it. When I set my mind to something, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to do it until it's done. I can be, you can ask my fiance, I can be very stubborn when it comes to things that I'm passionate about, but it's only if I have that real love for it and that passion. And I think that was starting to fade. And I think I was asking yourself, that millions out there will have asked themselves the same thing of, can you see yourself doing this for 10, 15, 20 years down the road? And I kept coming back to no, that wasn't the answer. And was struggling to find that next step and was feeling really lost about what that next step was going to be. And you had that feeling of just not knowing where you're going to go next, and had interviewed for a number of positions. And I had started looking a lot in the sports related field, but then sort of venturing out into other entertainment related fields, because I think that's where a lot of my interest lie is in themed entertainment, and I kind of happened to cross the position at Mall of America, and my manager at the time when I was interviewing, and then I think we really connected right away, and I got into an interview with who is now our VP of communications and who's my boss now, and I'm sitting with Dan, and he was doing this thing where he can be a little bit a goofball at times, and he can even do it to people that he doesn't know. He had two pens on his desk. He had a red pen and a green pen, and he kept saying, he starts the interview by saying, "Okay, I have a red pen and a green pen. Red you don't want, green is the one you want." And he would, as I was answering questions, he would kind of hover his hand over one pen and the other. And so it was throwing me a little bit because he kept going back to the red pen.
So as in so you're mid-response.
Yes.
And his hand will hover over the
Yeah.
red pen as if like you're saying the wrong thing.
Exactly. And so it was throwing me off, but I think that I had enough, wherewithal to think, okay, I know this stuff. I can answer these questions. If they like you, they like you. And finally he put his hand down and just started listening. I was able to connect with him with like a few things that he had a quote from Walt Disney. I'm a huge Walt Disney fan and just Disney fan as a whole. And we connected on that. And I kind of walked out of the interview and I'm thinking, okay, I feel okay. I think that it could have gone better, but within an hour I had received a call back that I was getting the position. And I think that I remember even 5 years later, that feeling of relief that you got this opportunity, and really have really grown into the position and the role, and found something that I am really very passionate about in social media and social media marketing and communications, and providing that experience for our guests and for the people that you're interacting with. But ultimately, it comes to me just having a team around you that you can have that same experience. I would not be here if it wasn't for the team that I have around me. They are kind of the rock that brings it all together. So I think that's kind of looking back on it now. I think I'm glad that I took the leap when I decided to do it.
So when you were facing that 5 years ago, and you're in that situation of you're feeling like there's something more, that you need to explore something else, you're feeling a little bit stunted in your current role. Now contrast those feelings to what you feel today.
Yeah, it comes down to confidence. Honestly, that's where I feel now that you can. When you're confident in what you do and who you are, not only who you are, but what you're backing, then that's going to come through in all of your actions. How you communicate with people, how you interact just on one-on-one or in a group, and it gives me the confidence that I can stand up in front of 200, 300 people and talk about our story at Mall of America and really feel passionate about what we're doing and make sure and feel confident that that's coming across. And that people can relate with it. And that only happens if you not only have that confidence, but then also have a strong backing and support system behind you to make that leap and to get out, to put yourself out there that way.
Awesome. Thanks again, Nate. It's been a pleasure. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. And if you want to check out our book, it's from pooptogold.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one. As entrepreneurs and small businesses, we all kind of reach that point where we know we've created something awesome and we want to share it with the world, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that very next step that can oftentimes be really intimidating or really scary, or you just don't know where to go next, right? And the beautiful thing about this 14-day script challenge is you get your hand held from, okay, you have this cool product, now let's go research and find the exact way to present it and message it to the world in a way that resonates and gets people excited and they're ready to swipe their credit card and purchase. And in the 14-day script challenge, you get the opportunity to go through that step by step with our writers who have done it dozens and dozens of times.
You actually watch us go through each of the steps ourselves and create it with a real client, a real product, and it's a real campaign that's out there that's been very successful.
That's right. And the feedback that we've had on this thing has just been phenomenal. I mean, we get comment after comment and emails flowing in from people all over the world who have just raved about the impact that this has had on their business.
People tell us over and over again, it is just a huge value punch for the investment for this 14-day script challenge, and really gave them the tool set they needed to walk through it and make it happen.
And we've had dozens of students who have successfully taken the challenge, written their script, launched their ad campaigns, and driven success for their business. It's pretty amazing.
For more information, go to hbros.co/script. That's hbros.co/script.